Hey artist, what do you see? I see some delicious donuts. I think I could just reach out and, nope, tricked ya. These donuts were created using shading. Shading is when an artist is coloring into a shape, lighter or darker, to represent depth of an object. They do this by using their pencil or tool, heavier or lighter than other areas. Now, these donuts are shapes, but I actually made them look like a form. A form is an object that is three-dimensional, meaning it has length, width, and height. To start your donut project, let's begin by folding your square paper into 4 equal parts. Take one side and bring it over equally to the edge of my other paper. Then I'm going to crease it. Then unfold and do it the opposite direction, top to bottom. Line up those corners. Look to make sure each corner is lined up with the other. There we go. Donuts aren't perfect. They can have lumps, they can have bumps, it's okay. But I like using stencils to help me get started. So I have just a paper circle, and I have a little ketchup cup that I'm going to use the bottom for my donut hole. I'm going to center this up and trace my first donut. You can go off, it's okay. Remember, using a pencil means you can change your mind. And erase and go back. I'm going to use the small part of this one. Center it up as best as I can and move it around. Again, using a pencil is just fine. I'm using my marker so you can see. There's my first donut. Again, if your donut is lumpy and bumpy, it's okay. They're not perfect. The next step is going to be your toppings. Maybe you want to have some yummy frosting with sprinkles. Or maybe you want to have a cream-filled donut or a striped frosted donut. There's a lot of options. And think about how you could draw lines for different frostings, or one that's dipped, or one that has a hole for the jelly. Totally up to you. But this is the basic way to start your donut. Go ahead and you design your own 4 donuts, even if someone took a bite out of it, and then we'll talk about shading. Hey artist, have you ever thought about what is the difference between a shape and a form? A shape is a flat object, like a circle or a rectangle. A lot of times we'll see that with paper. It's flat, something I can smush. But a form is something that if I were to take my flashlight, look what happens over here. I'm shining light, and the top of this sphere is getting brighter as the light gets closer. But look what happens to the area of this form that is not in the light. It has a shadow. Not even the shadow on the paper, but it has a shadow on its actual form. The whitest area, the brightest, is the one that's closest to the light. Then that light gets a little less bright, and then it starts to get darker until we get to that shadow where there is no light. Hold up this cylinder. We can see that if I hold the cylinder very close, some sides of it are very dark. They're the ones that are the farthest away from the light. But the light that is shining on top of this cylinder, wherever that light is, it is very bright. As an artist, I would even say that that section is white. And the area in the light is yellow, and the area that's in the shadow would be a darker yellow or black. All right, artist, I have my donuts drawn, 4 of them, 4 different kinds, and it's okay if they're not perfect. I want you to enjoy drawing these. The shadows, so that's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to start with my colored pencil, and colored pencils are great at shading because if you press harder or lighter on your pencil, you can change the pressure very easily. I like to start on the edge, the outer edge, and that's where I press the hardest. And then I just work my way in, gradually releasing that pressure, making it go from dark to light. You'll notice I'm just taking a section at a time and working my way around my donut. Thinking about how the round part of this donut is curving up to that frosting. I'll do the same thing with this frosting. dark to light. Take your time. Enjoy it. Let's talk about this frosting. I think I want this to be a blueberry frosting, and you're right. We are going to shade this in as well, like a form. So the darkest areas are going to be on the edges of your shape because the light is coming down from the top, just like if you're in a classroom, the light is on the ceiling. So I'm going to take my pencil to the edge. I'm going to press hard using small spaces. Then as I get forward into that icing, gently, gently get lighter. As we continue to do this, we're going to see the illusion, or the trick of the eye, that shading can do for us. When we start to have an illusion where we think we see one thing, but it actually is something else. This is something artists have been doing for a long time to create artwork about items that are 3D. Buildings, food, people, the whole world around us. This is pretty light, so I'm going to go back and add more pressure. Take your time, go slow, and have fun. All right, let's look at a finished example. All right, hello artist. Let's talk about the finishing touch with our shading. I have used a color for my donut to go from the edges of the dark to light, but I've also used a color for my frosting to do the same. Again, when you're shading, the darkest areas are going to be the edges of your shape. But as with our forms, the examples I used earlier, we have shadows. Shadows are what ground us. It tells us that there are items that are resting on a table instead of just floating in air. So I'm going to choose one edge, just one, with my black colored pencil to give just a little bit of shading on the outside. It doesn't need to be terribly large, doesn't need to be terribly dark, just enough to give a nice fuzzy shadow to show that this donut could be sitting on a plate or napkin. And I'm going to go back in, I'm going to do the opposite side because we think about the direction of the light, wanting to see how the inside of this donut also has volume. All right, I think that does it. Looks good enough to eat. I can't wait to see your work. Oh, and don't forget to color the sprinkles. Happy making, artist.